I'm burning up, hot flashes got me sweating like a sauna, body feeling different, hold her creeping like a drama, clock hits 3 wide awake.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to What the Pause? My name is Emilia Kartsonis. I am your podcast creator and host. And with me today is Jennifer Nispinski, and she is joining us today to talk about her journey through menopause so far. What has she done in terms of supports, especially in the US and specifically in her town and her state? And then we're going to talk about how she advocates for her clients. So I'm going to, don't mind the bells. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand things over to Jennifer. So Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you. Yes, it's so important, as I have interviewed a few ladies of different ages and stages in menopause, and it's almost the same messaging coming out, which is really good because it states my point of there's not enough happening, but we're going to get to that later on in the show. So for us women, Jennifer, tell us how old you are, when you started having your symptoms, and where are you on your menopause journey?
Mm-hmm. So I'm 52 years old. I last got my period in February of 2023. So I'm 3 years out. My journey started at age 39, which would have been in 2012. I was pretty young to have picked up on I was having it, but I had a really bad day at work where everyone's aware of like the word retrieval, searching for words. So I was already having that. And this day was particularly bad. And I remember sitting at my computer and like, I didn't know how to use it. It didn't last that long, maybe a couple minutes, but it really freaked me out. And so I Googled word retrieval, like what's going on. And an article came up from Prevention Magazine that had the 34 symptoms of perimenopause. They don't have that article up anymore. I had it saved. And I was like, wow, 34 symptoms. And I started going through the list and I saw the word retrieval and I realized that I had been having hot flashes and didn't get it because I thought my room was too hot at night. I felt like I had a hot collar around my neck. That's not what people talk about. They say they wake up drenched and I wasn't having that. So it all came crashing down like, oh my goodness, this is really happening.
Yes. And isn't it amazing where you're 52 now, 39 back then. It's always this, I wish I knew then what I know now. Right. And we wish we had more supports during that time. Like you said, you had a Google and Prevention had this great article. It's no longer there. And, and we've gone from 34 or 32 symptoms of perimenopause to actually 47 today. And you're absolutely right. Not everybody experiences night sweats the same or the hot flashes the same, right? And the brain fog. And this is something where in our late 30s, we think, we're too young for this, right? Mm-hmm. And I know with my mother, we never talked about it. I actually helped her in her journey. Was there anybody that you, at that time at 39, 40, did you have any support at that time? I know you were online a lot, but when did you find out that you really needed more support when things started really getting off?
Well, it was really hard at that time because none of my friends were anywhere near having symptoms. And I had friends that were younger, in their mid or younger 30s. So they didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know who to talk to about it. Fortunately, my mom and my grandmother were very open about, our gynecological health. And it encouraged me my whole life, get your mammograms, make sure you go. And I knew both of their histories. They both went through menopause early at 41. So I knew I was at risk for that. So it wasn't that shocking. But when I started to go to the doctor and talk about it, I was not getting any traction. The first thing they said was, oh, you're too young. And I said, yes. And my mother and my grandmother had it at 41. And then they were like, oh, this is my first experience of being minimized. So it was very difficult. And I will also say that I have a background in science. I was pre-med in college, so I can research and I know a little bit more about the the human body than your average patient. So it was really pissing me off. That's, like
Yep.
I,
Hmm.
I have information and I'm a trusted source here. So
Isn't it interesting though that we come in more knowledgeable than even our doctors when it comes to this and when it comes to support? And I know, let me ask you this, Jennifer, did they provide you anything besides they're 41. Wow. Did they try to give you any kind of other type of treatments? I know when I was going through it, they just, here's the antidepressants because this is exactly what your symptoms are this, not perimenopause, right?
yes. Well, I guess they were direct in saying like the two things that they can offer are an SSRI and the pill. Those were the only two options I was presented. So it was sort of like, uh, this is
Yes.
just what you go through. So I spent a long time suffering with lots of different symptoms. And I got screened for all kinds of stuff like arthritis because my joint pain was off the charts. I was not prepared for that.
Nope.
Um, I had crashing fatigue. I'd have to take a nap in the middle of the afternoon, which is not always easy when you're at work.
Nope.
Um, and the hot flashes became worse and worse, that they basically lasted from the time I got up in the morning till about lunchtime and just keep coming in waves. And no one offered me HRT. I didn't think that I could get HRT until after I had stopped getting my period. So I never asked for that.
Yeah. Yes. And this is something that we never thought of at the time, too. Now, our older millennials are getting smarter and they're listening to us to say, don't listen to them when they want to throw you other treatments. Start the HRT right away, right? It's not 100%, but at least it's going to eliminate or, play down some of those symptoms that are dragging us down every day. I understand the debilitating fatigue was the first one for me and for a lot of people.
Okay.
And the antidepressants, it's like I'm still on them. And it's like, wow, I was given the strongest one that I cannot taper off of. And you have so you went through menopause and you finished at 52, which is what they say the average, right? And yes, and some people like, yeah, well, I saw my mother and I saw my grandmother go through the same, and they had stuff done back then. Is usually a hysterectomy to get you into full meno, right? And then now we're finding, okay, no, we don't need to go with those drastic measures. They don't know what was happening to us. They were misinterpreting medical, studies, and I think there's a systemic bias out there. To be honest with you, right? It's like,
Oh,
go ahead,
absolutely.
Jennifer, please.
Absolutely. And you can come in educated and get questioned. And also your symptoms get minimized. The only way I got paid attention to here was once my periods got really heavy and I started bleeding too long, then they started with tests. And I, that'll get you into the doctor fast. I'm not saying lie about it, but then I got all kinds of treatment and ended up in me having a DNC because my uterine lining was too thick. So I went through a biopsy. I went through that terrible ultrasound, and then I had to be put under. Actually, they said I could do it like in the office or in the hospital. And thank God I said do it in the hospital, because they often offer you these things where you should be put under, and they do it without a lot of intervention. So that was another thing I learned.
Yes. And this is very interesting. I know we're going to digress just a little bit here, but just to close that up, what you just said is I've never had an IUD inserted before, but I've heard of my friends, my sister, and they said it is the most painful
Yes.
insertion. Why does it have to be like that? You have to wonder, why do they make women go through all of these traumatic experiences because of the intervention that's not being used? Why? Because they think that we're strong because we're women, or because it just, as soon as I read more and talk to women like you about this, it just pieces all together that there is something going on that is against us, especially us at mid-age, and especially for those approaching the 40, 45-year mark. Why do we have to suffer like this? This is why I always asked for an epidural when I had my delivering, right? So yeah,
No
go ahead.
one believe
Yeah.
no one believes women.
Nope.
No one cares about women. I hate to be that overstate that, but if you
You're
look at
not.
there
Trust
was
me.
no research done on us. Like I have a book that I'll, recommend later, The Menopause
Yes.
Brain. They didn't scan our brains in menopause until the 2020s. That's absolutely ridiculous. They didn't make postpartum an actual thing until 1994. We are so behind. They just have not invested in us because we're too complicated. Maybe you've heard that.
I think that we're too complicated and they're not smart enough to figure it out, to be honest with you. And yes, I am one of the, if you guys follow me on Threads and, I was like, when can we start a secret women's society? Please, so we can just, banish the patriarchy. And I know, Jennifer, you had a sign that,
Yes. Smash the patriarchy.
Yeah.
So and yes, come to Threads.
Yep.
It's all Gen X going through the menopause journey. It's a very safe place for women.
It's the safest place for women because we will just, if you're a man trying to get information, no, we will tell you exactly where to go. And there's no filter, right? And I'm finding that I'm using that same voice on LinkedIn, for example. Mm-hmm. And I am just targeting, and I'm like, no one's going to hire me, but that's okay because I have another mission to do here, right? Yeah. But in terms of not listening to us, absolutely, they do not listen to us. And this is something, like you said, you had to be in a state where you're in physical pain or you're physically something's wrong. Then you had to go in, and it's not lying. Let me tell you, I would fake symptoms just to see a doctor because nobody else was listening to me, right? We shouldn't have to go that far, which is incredible. But let's talk about menopause support. Now, in your state, let us know where you're from and what your experience has been like or with others in terms of support.
So I live in Pennsylvania in the US, and I for a long time lived outside of the Philadelphia area. Now I live in the Poconos, which has even less resources. So I'm not going to talk about that. I will talk about Philly. I learned probably 5 years ago that there is a clinic within UPenn, which is well known in Philadelphia, for menopause, but the wait list can be up to 2 years to get in. So what good is that going to do? That was the only place that I knew of that you could go and they specialized in it. I Googled it before this call this week, and I have found that there's a lot more marketing right now in the Philadelphia area than there was 5 years ago. So it's starting to catch on, but I think only because they know they can make money off of it now. And I also don't trust some of the advertisements about are they really specializing in it, or if is it just a tag to get people to come there?
Those are great points because my next podcast is going to be a solo one all about these like telehealth medicine. Oh yeah, yes. I'm giving this is, especially here in Ontario where we have a premier who has such disregard for healthcare, education, women, right? And we're all just fighting to say, no, we need to have some more supports. We need to have federal healthcare. We need to go beyond because 5 years is not enough, right? The UK, I studied the UK a lot, and they are just decades ahead of us.
Yes, they are.
Right? They're instilling menopause policies. Go ahead.
They have a great website over there. That's where I got most of my information. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I follow a lot of the doctors and the menopause coaches from the UK because they just have it down packed. And it's going to take a while even for Canadians to get, the same. And I know in the States, you guys have different governors and they mandate what goes on each state. Same thing here provincially, right? Our healthcare is provincial. And so that means whoever is leading that province, they get to make all the decisions. Yet my friends in BC, they're getting their HRT for free. They're having menopause legislation happening. What is going on here? And this is something that should have been done decades ago, right?
Well, and your insurance matters in the United States of what you have access to and what's paid for. I already know that if I do get HRT, that I'm going to have to pay for most of it out of pocket. The appointment is covered and the lab work, but I will have to pay for the actual drug itself, and it's not going to be cheap. They warned me about that in my appointment.
Yes, and it's so sad. I no longer have benefits here, so our OHIP plan, our Ontario plan, only covers certain things too, but it won't cover the HRT, which for me it's going to be about $150 a month, and then layer on the other medications I take too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and paying out of pocket, and get this though, it's like what a time to take away everything that the midlife woman has done, right? For the company they work for the family they work for the selflessness we have as mothers or as wives, okay, who don't even have children. They have stress too. Jennifer has stresses too, right?
Yes.
And that's the thing is like, okay, so we have these supports, we know what we're doing, but no one's listening. It's getting better, but it needs to be improved. And I feel for my sisters in the States. I really, really do. And it just, every time I turn on the television, every time I hear about the orange clown talk about, lack of this, lack of that. Well, he's the one that's creating this monstrosity over there, but and is trying to filter in here, but it's not. So I really do hope that leaders and people watching this today can understand that stop stating or stop thinking that a woman's life ends at 50 and that we can just take her away from her corporate career. We can take her away from all the benefits. We can take her away from all the supports and let her suffer and let her pay for it out of pocket because we have younger ones to bring in. It's something I'm seeing here, and the turnover is so great. And it just really, really saddens me because I think middle-aged women or women of our age, we are the most valuable and the best people to hire or to work with.
Research shows that evolutionarily, actually, menopause is a function that helps society survive. It showed that children who have grandmothers are more likely to thrive. That is actual research. So, if people understood what we can contribute at this time in our life, maybe they would pay attention more.
Yeah, exactly. And I always say to those who don't pay attention, what if this was happening to your wife? What if this was happening to your daughter? Would you make changes then? Or would you say, well, this is how it goes, right? We'll see in 10 years. We'll see what happens, right? But I want to know, Jennifer, what's your advice for others when they are going in? Like, say they're from the States and it's a little harder to get what you want. What advice would you give to them?
I'm a therapist and I work with a lot of women that have challenges in gynecology. And so I'm teaching them now to start advocating for themselves even before they have perimenopause symptoms. Start having a conversation with your PCP and your gynecologist early. I'm talking in your 30s to keep an eye out for this. Also, talk to your therapist. If your therapist does not understand about menopause, you might want to consider getting one that does. Um, I would also advocate about maybe getting HRT sooner rather than later. Don't do what I did and not know until after my period stopped. I was never offered or asked if I was interested. I had to ask. And I'm going to warn you, you're going to have to ask, and you're going to have to ask multiple times, and you're going to be told no, and you're going to be minimized, and you have to continue. Some of the best advice I saw on Threads actually was when you ask a doctor for something and they say that it's not indicated or it's not the time, you ask them to explain to you why it is not being recommended at this time and to put it in your chart. That will change the conversation.
That is an incredible point to make is that, challenge them on why, and then exactly have them put it into the report. Because, you've tried, your doctor's saying no, no, no. What are you going to do? Right. And then, but it's in the record, then obviously that you can do some escalation. I know I've already contacted the Ontario Medical Association about stuff. So yeah, we find that I know growing up, and we're going to wrap it up here soon, Jennifer. But we're close in age. I'm 54. You're 52. But we're conditioned to, okay, let's listen to everybody that's in a doctors are God, and we should listen to them.
Yes.
In this day and age, with AI and with doctors coming out of med school now, they're still not teaching it there.
They're not.
Nope, they still are not. And it just really saddens me. And this is why I love speaking with women like yourselves who are educated, who are talented, who, have gone through this. And we're just thinking to ourselves, how can we push through? How can we work together to push this through, this agenda through? And I think using the UK as an example and bringing that to the attention, right, would really, really help in that regard. Jennifer, I didn't ask you, but let my viewers know, what do you do for work? And please promote your work, please.
While I worked in the lab for a long time, I changed careers, and I'm now a licensed professional counselor in the state of Pennsylvania. And one of my specialties is working with women's health, maternal, menopause. I do the general, depression, anxiety, all of that. And I'm embarking on starting my own practice called The Authentic Place, The Authentic Path. So I'm, glad to collaborate with you and have a conversation with you, because it's important that we stick together.
Absolutely, Jennifer. Sticking together, bringing the numbers in. And it's funny because we don't compete. We're actually working together and supporting each other in this space. People are like, oh, I want to have, so many followers and so many this and so many that. But no, the mission here is to advocate for others. So Jennifer, I will get those socials from you, and I'm going to put them on my YouTube channel. Okay, once I get this up and ready. But I do want to thank you. This has just been an enlightening conversation, and I really love hearing it from different perspectives, especially from people who are from the states, different states, of course. And I just look forward to hopefully we can connect again very soon and collaborate, because I love hearing these strong voices and action. Right? We can all do this all day, but it's the action, right?
Well, thank you for your work. It's going to help a lot of people.
I appreciate that, Jennifer. All right, everybody, thank you so much for jumping on, listening, or if you're watching this right now. If you're listening, please come to my YouTube channel, and I'll have all the socials for Jennifer there. And in the meantime, be safe, be well, and embrace the pause.
Yo, I'm burning up, hot flashes got me sweating like a sauna, body feeling different, hold her creeping like a drama, clock hits 3, wide awake insomnia, got me stressed.